Season 3 of Squid Game brings the show to a close by not only addressing all of its unresolved issues but also including a captivating cameo in its closing minutes. The last episode of the popular Korean Netflix series opens with Ji-hun rejoining the survivors in the common room of the games. But Ji-hun is devastated and depressed after losing his friend Young-bae and blaming himself for the deaths of other innocent people. He even kills Dae-ho in the opening game of Squid Game Season 3 in an attempt to feel better by placing the blame on someone else, revealing his darker side. Ji-hun was in danger of becoming as heartless as the front man in the early going of Season 3. He even came dangerously close to immorality when he killed Dae-ho in the game of hide-and-seek. But, in contrast to the front man, Ji-hun managed to hold on to what little compassion he still had by not killing the other players when the front man gave him the opportunity. He wouldn't have been any different from Myung-ji, who was prepared to kill his child in order to win, if he had accepted the front man's offer and murdered his rivals while they were asleep. Ji-hun was able to sacrifice himself for the infant because he managed to maintain his humanity. After everything he has done and gone through, Ji-hun also appears to realize toward the conclusion that he might never be able to live with himself in peace. But the infant might at last end the violent cycles the games fueled and grow up in a much better environment than the one Ji-hun inhabited. Given that Ji-hun, like Sang-woo, recognizes the consequences of his actions and lets someone else win the reward, the conclusion of Squid Game Season 3 also shares many similarities with that of Season 1. Cate Blanchett appears in a scene before the credits of Squid Game Season 3 roll, disguised as the famous salesman from Gongyu. When she and a man play the Squid Game recruitment game Dokji, she slaps him each time he doesn't flip the envelopes. This image gives the impression that Squid Game's reported US Netflix spin-off is already in development. The closing scene may indicate that Cate Blanchett will be the new saleswoman, but it is unclear if she will appear in the upcoming season. Horses have served as powerful metaphors for the participants in the games that bear the same name since the beginning of Squid Game. Ji-hun makes a significant wager on a horse race during the first arc of the show in the hopes of winning large and permanently resolving his financial issues. When the VIPs wager on him and the other competitors as he attempts to win a race for their amusement, he quickly loses his status as a horse. You wager on horses. We wager on people, but it's the same here. In Season 1, the front man reminds Ji-hun that he and others like him are merely objects of amusement for the wealthy. You're our horses, he adds. Ji-hun and the players, like horses, conform and struggle to perform in the games without taking into account their human rights and autonomy. But when the event comes to a close, Ji-hun uses what little power he has left to protest the game's organizers and remind them that they are human beings, not horses. When an enigmatic individual breaks into the hotel room where Ji-hun kept all of his Season 1 prize money, Woo-suk finds it difficult to determine who could have stolen it. The front man, Inho, visits Ji-hun's daughter's house in the show's last minutes and informs her that he knew her father. The kid says she doesn't want anything to do with her father and appears to be furious with him. But when Inho tells her that her father has died, her heart melts. According to the backstories of Junho and Inho, Inho always had a great deal of affection for his younger half-brother, Junho, and even gave him one of his kidneys. But after he had to compete in the 28th Squid Game due to financial difficulties and his inability to get his ailing wife treated, he became estranged from him. Season 3 of Squid Game also exposes that Inho had cut all of his competitors' throats while they were sleeping at night in order to win the games. Inho learns in the last arc of Squid Game that not all people are as cold and self-centered as the games made him think. He realizes that despite the fact that his situation has caused him to lose his moral compass, there are still some nice individuals in the world, such as his brother and Ji-hun. Ji-hun's sacrifice enables him to realize that people are worthy of a second opportunity and cannot be used as puppets in a system that the corrupt elite has established. As a result, he chooses to send the infant to his brother's house, distant from his own distorted reality. No Yule travels to China with renewed optimism, thinking she might finally see her daughter again. Because it doesn't say whether she sees her daughter again, the show leaves her story somewhat unresolved. Nonetheless, it is difficult for a viewer to not wish for Park Gyu-young's Squid Game character to have a happy ending. Just as Inho is ready to depart with the infant, Junho arrives at the location of the games. Junho now has the ideal chance to kill his brother in order to stop him. But since his brother did the same in Season 1, he still decides to spare him. It seems that Inho never lost his complex yet intense love for his half-brother, even after he became heartless after participating in the games and finally planning them as the front man. Junho struggles to draw the trigger in the Squid Game Season 3 finale since he understands this as well. The infant, player 222, survives among the players because Ji-hun sacrifices his life to protect the child. Additionally, Kyung-suk, player 246, survives because No Yule watches out for him. She feigns to assist the other guards in their human trafficking scheme while purposefully shooting him in a non-essential location. However, she murders the guards and requests that the doctor tend to player 240's wound as soon as they take him to the doctor to have his organs removed. It was difficult not to view the front man as the primary antagonist of the program for a considerable amount of time. The last storyline of Squid Game, however, demonstrates how even Inho was once a desperate player who was committed to improving his family's quality of living. Though his desperation quickly turned to detachment, he saw the games as a means of rescue rather than cruelty. When given the appearance of control in exchange for one's morals and conscience, he eventually lost himself to the prevailing system, demonstrating how simple it is to become a victim of the schemes of the powerful. Ji-hun's story and his ultimate sacrifice demonstrate how one player alone can bring waves of change and challenge the foundation of a system built on exploitation, while the story beats of Inho and many other characters serve as a warning that moral decay rarely occurs suddenly and is frequently motivated by a desire to simply survive. Another way to interpret Squid Game is as a parody of the delusion of free will that permeates economic structures. Similar to the players, people are tricked into thinking they can control their own lives and win a large sum of money, but they are thwarted by class differences and inequality. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.